From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.
At the Legislature today, the Senate passes a bill that will benefit the city of Morgantown as officials there look toward economic development and expansion. We'll explain in this half hour. And the state's 20 adult drug courts covering 30 counties and its 16 juvenile drug courts covering 20 counties are having an impact as West Virginia combats substance abuse. We'll talk with the Chief Justice of the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals tonight on the Legislature Today. And good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. 4 bills passed in the House today, including one that would expand the definition of eligible veteran for employment purposes, and 2 bills relating to the Office of the Secretary of State. However, a bill related to guns dominated the House of Delegates floor session today. Dave Mistich reports.
House Bill 2760 would create a statewide uniform regulation of firearms, ammunition, and firearm accessories. The bill would essentially take away the power of municipalities and counties to create their own legislation and ordinances on the matter. Charleston Mayor Danny Jones and other city leaders had spoken out in opposition of the bill over the past week. Charleston's current ordinance, which would be repealed by House Bill 2760, limits handgun purchases to 1 per month and requires buyers to wait 72 hours before receiving weapons. Delegate Josh Nelson of Boone County argued that those ordinances are unconstitutional.
A lot of these ordinances say that you can only purchase 1 gun per month. I want to bring to light that it only takes 1 gun to commit a crime, and that the only person that these ordinances are hurting are law-abiding citizens. Most of these places that this would affect have a 72-hour waiting period. A criminal will just go right outside of the city and buy a gun and bring it back into the city to commit a crime that they feel that they want to commit. Our constitutional rights as West Virginians and citizens of the United States should not stop at the edge of any city. You can look to cities like Detroit, who have the strictest gun laws in the United States, and their crime rate is also that of the highest. Let us remember what we swore an oath to do, and that's to protect and defend the Constitution. The Constitution does not say a person has the right to bear arms in 72 hours. It says they have a right to bear arms.
Delegate Woody Ireland of Ritchie County also spoke in support of the bill. He held up a Cabela's Visa card to illustrate his point.
If I go down to the local Cabela's store in Charleston as a law-abiding citizen and try to turn in my points accumulated on this Visa card for a handgun, just one, I have a 3-day waiting period. So if I happen to go down there on Thursday, or let's say Wednesday afternoon after our minor committee meetings, I have to wait 3 days before I can pick up that handgun. That may not seem like too much of an imposition, but I have to go back down there, and perhaps I needed it that weekend. Now, is that an imposition on me as primarily, I would hope, a law-abiding citizen of West Virginia? I think so.
Many other delegates spoke out in support of the bill, including Delegate Justin Markham of Mingo County and Delegate Mark Hunt of Kanawha County. Hunt said that Charleston is no longer the center of the legislative universe and said the current ordinance in Charleston is secondary. However, the bill was met with opposition from others from Kanawha County, including Delegate Nancy Peoples-Guthrie.
I know a lot of us have been having some troubled times with this type of legislation. Maybe some of you aren't. But I know in Charleston, our delegation, even though it's diminished in size, some of us still do have problems with all of the gun legislation that's before us this year. Now, if law enforcement were asking for this bill, I respect our state police, I respect our municipal officers, I respect our county sheriffs, but they didn't ask for this bill. I'm not sure who did, but we're looking at a bill right now that's going to take away a privilege that a few cities have that has not been abused, that has not caused any problems, that may in fact have helped.
Delegate Danny Wells and Delegate Misha Poore, both of Kanawha County, also argued against the bill. Poore said it was her responsibility to keep her constituency safe and noted that the House Judiciary Committee did not hear testimony about how current Charleston gun ordinances have caused problems or were ineffective.
And there has been nobody that came through our Judiciary Committee that testified that this was causing any problems in Charleston or any of the other surrounding areas. I don't even know if they were asked to come and testify that it wasn't working or that it had prevented a problem. But I do know that the problem has been created is that there's 2 officers that were shot in New Jersey because of guns that were purchased in South Charleston. I know that when I lay my head down, when there happens to be, Lord forbid, anybody that gets shot in my district, that I can lay my head down knowing that I did not allow anybody else to have access to guns that should not have had them. I know when we begin to start talking about substance abuse problems that I did not add more drugs into my community because someone decided they would sell a gun. Because they didn't have the money, they would sell a gun for the drugs. So I vote no on this bill.
After hearing from 11 delegates on the matter, House Bill 2760 passed with a 94-4 vote. The no votes came from Kanawha County delegates Guthrie, Poore, and Wells, as well as Delegate Stephen Skinner of Jefferson County. The bill, which will now be handed over to the Senate, would repeal local gun ordinances in Charleston, South Charleston, Dunbar, and Martinsburg. For the Legislature Today, I'm Dave Mistich in the House of Delegates.
A bill on third reading in the Senate today became the 18th piece of legislation passed by the upper house during this 81st legislature. As Ashton Mara reports, it's a bill that, if passed by the House of Delegates, will have a positive economic impact on one of the state's largest cities.
Engrossed Senate Bill 125, permitting Monongalia County Commission to levy special district excise tax, third reading of the bill.
The bill, read for the third time on the floor today, would allow the creation of the third Tax Increment Financing District, or TIF district, in the state. A TIF freezes the tax rates of an area, like property or sales taxes, at their current rate. It then allows counties to use the funds from future economic growth in the district to pay down bond debt incurred to build its initial infrastructure. The district considered today would be located in Morgantown.
This is an opportunity for us to look at a lot of different things as far as economic development is concerned. When you look at access, roadways and things of this sort, this TIF will provide an interstate exchange into the mall area that's much needed.
That interstate interchange will be located on Interstate 79 between Westover and Star City, a project Prezioso says will cost about $28 million. Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chair Senator Robert Beach of Monongalia County also urged the Senate's support of Senate Bill 125.
Also, the interchanges the Senator had mentioned will basically open up both sides of the highways. The bulk of that property that's involved in this project is on the west side of Interstate 79 heading north. And quite honestly, if it was not for this interchange and this district that's being created, that property probably would not be developed for another 30 years or so.
Beach says economic development would create more than 1,500 permanent jobs in an area that is expected to grow in population by 5,000 to 7,000 residents in the next 5 years, which Senator John Unger of Berkeley County says also poses a safety issue.
In addition to the economic development capability, it's also a public safety issue because right now there's only one entrance to and from up there, and it's growing quite significantly. By having another exit from there, that if anything would happen on that, would allow for emergency vehicles to respond.
Along with the infrastructure development, the project includes provisions for a $16 million baseball stadium that would play host to West Virginia University, Fairmont State University, and possibly a new minor league baseball team, much like the one in Charleston. Appalachian Power Park holds 4,500 fans, but the complex in Morgantown would hold twice that. A Big 12 regulation-size field has to have a minimum of 9,000 seats. And Beach says the field is just a portion of what the new district can attract.
Right now there's some big commitments already to come into Morgantown as far as development. Of course, the ballpark, and it's my understanding there's about 300,000 square feet of office and retail space already committed by businesses throughout north central West Virginia who want to come and do business in Morgantown.
The Senate took up the bill.
On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nay, none absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present having voted in the affirmative, I hereby declare the bill passed.
And passed it unanimously, with no senators speaking against it. A new bill introduced on the floor today was sent to come before Beach's Transportation Committee. Senate Bill 493, sponsored by Senator Robert Plymouth of Wayne County, sets standards for converting and retrofitting vehicles to use alternative fuels.
So if you have a diesel vehicle, now we can start looking at retrofitting those vehicles to use natural gas as well. So you're going to get better gas mileage, and that also in turn will also extend the life of the vehicle itself.
Governor Tomlin has taken an extreme interest in the use of natural gas as fuel, creating a task force last summer to study the plausibility of converting the state fleet into one that harnesses natural gas. Beach says the governor's bill for using natural gas and other substitute fuels will be taken up by his committee tomorrow. For the Legislature Today, I'm Ashton Mara in the Senate.
In a moment, we'll talk with the Chief Justice of the West Virginia Supreme Court. First, here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the Senate today. Among the bills introduced in the Senate today, Senate Bill 493 to provide standards for conversions and retrofits of diesel and gasoline vehicles to alternative fuels, and Senate Bill 495 to require public notice, comment, and a hearing prior to real property acquisitions by the West Virginia Outdoor Heritage Conservation Fund Board. Up for passage in the Senate tomorrow, Senate Bill 386, clarifying the grounds for issuance of a personal safety order for harassment. Senate Bill 387, to grant family court judges the authority to compel and supervise the production of criminal background investigations when appropriate. And Senate Bill 423, to include those sentenced to 6 months in regional jails to be eligible for good time credit. On second reading, Senate Bill 200, relating to eyewitness identification, lineups, and show-ups, establishing certain recommended procedures before a lineup or show-up, and setting forth additional instructions. And Senate Bill 372, to create a criminal offense for intentionally interfering with or preventing a person from calling for the assistance of emergency service personnel, and to establish criminal penalties. Adult and juvenile drug courts save the state millions of dollars, turn potential repeat offenders into productive citizens, keep families together, and help communities prosper. It may sound too good to be true, but it is true. That's according to our guest tonight. Chief Justice Brent Benjamin was elected to a 12-year term on the Supreme Court of Appeals in November 2004. Chief Justice Benjamin, welcome. So glad you're here.
Great to be here, Beth.
All right, so tell me a story or stories that illustrates the success of drug court.
You know, not long after I was on the court, I had an opportunity to go to a graduation down in Mercer County. And one of the ladies who was graduating, she'd spent a lot of time in the drug court program down there, and one of the main requirements is that you have to be sober, and you're tested a lot. Well, she got pregnant while she was in the program, and of course 9 months later just delivered a absolutely beautiful little baby girl. And when we went for the graduation, I had the opportunity to hold that little baby in my hands, or my arms, and the baby was probably no more than 6 weeks old. And looking down at that child's eyes, bright blue eyes, with a future, the baby had been born to a mom who'd been drug free throughout the pregnancy. That child's now probably 7 or 8 years old. But just that moment of looking into that baby's eyes and realizing that this is about potential for people to turn around their lives, their children. It's all about safety, changing bad habits. It's much cheaper for West Virginia to do it this way, and it restores families. It's a win-win situation all the way around.
How are people referred to drug court?
Drug court is not an easy thing to get into. The only way you can get in is if the judge in your case and the prosecutor agree that you can come in. And what drug court's designed for are for those individuals who commit crimes because of their addictions. If you're a hardcore drug lord or someone who's involved with violence, weapons, you're not going to even be considered. And we also look at people who have a good chance at maybe being able to turn around. We've been very fortunate. We graduate about 53% of our adults, about 64% of our juveniles, which is a pretty remarkable number. And what we're seeing is, compared to about 70 or 80% that come through our prison system and go right back into drugs, those who graduate from our juvenile drug court program only go back at 14%, and our adults at 9%. So these are people who do turn around their lives. They become responsible citizens. More importantly, they become moms and dads again. They become sons and daughters again. And that's really, really a very good thing. And it's a fraction of the cost of incarceration.
Who runs the drug courts? Who are the people that are providing therapy, providing substance abuse treatment, providing these drug tests? Who works at the drug court? The drug court,
each drug court has a drug court team, and I think it's important to note for your listeners that the drug court team pretty much operates voluntary. This is time that they take away from their families to try to help people turn around their lives. It's always there's always a judge involved, prosecutor, law enforcement. There are counselors involved, probation officers, day reporting centers. It's a very large group of people to get together. The whole purpose is not just to get the person sober, but to turn around their lives. They've got to get well medically as well as spiritually. They have to get jobs. They have to do community service. And what we see is the first 3 to 6 months is really tough on them. Sometimes some of the people say they'd rather go to prison. But once they get over that hump, once they start gaining that self-respect, once they start realizing that they have a future, then things begin to click. And they actually, when they graduate, and we've seen this happen many times, they turn around and help the people coming up behind them. And when we're talking about cost savings, that's something that's really astonishing. Right now, with the number 528 people that we have in West Virginia in the drug court program, if we had those people in the prison system, and this includes juveniles in juvenile detention facilities, the cost to West Virginia would be $17 million more than what it costs for us to put them through drug court. And as I said, we get much better results.
Drug court is not in every county. Will you be opening any new drug courts this year?
We are, actually. 3 new adult drug courts and 3 new juvenile drug courts. The juvenile drug courts are over in the Eastern Panhandle. To some extent, we've got Berkeley and Morgan County that will be coming online. We also have Pocahontas County, which will be coming online, and that's great. And with adult drug courts, Mason and Marion and Putnam counties will be coming online. We hope to get it across the entire state at this point. We've got it in 30 counties so far. So we've got some good growth, or we've had good growth, and hopefully within the next few years we'll have it across the state.
We spent last week learning a lot about the Justice Reinvestment Report and the prison overcrowding. We learned 3 things. There needs to be a risk and needs assessment of the people entering the correctional system, more supervision when they're released, and more substance abuse treatment. Is drug court it?
Well, drug court's an example of something that juvenile or the justice reinvestment's all about, which is first focus on public safety, second focus on public financing and public funds, and third, figure out if we can do something a little bit better. And what justice reinvestment looks at is, can we look at the prison system, apply some of the things like I just discussed with drug courts, and do it better? So for instance, when we're releasing people from prisons, should we just drop them on a street corner or give them over to their family without any counseling, without any type of supervision whatsoever? Or should we have a controlled, limited release where we can begin to teach job skills, where we can teach a reintegration into the system. We have the benefit of seeing other states that have done this. Mm-hmm. Texas was a pioneer in this, and Texas is known as a law and order state.
Yes, it is. Yes,
but it's also a state that realizes that public safety is enhanced when we don't continue cycles of people going through the system, coming out, committing new crimes against law-abiding citizens, then going back through the system. That's just negative for not only the individual involved, but it costs recycling, or it just continues bad cycles of prosecution costs, mm-hmm. incarceration costs, and of course the property damage and personal damage that people commit when they are coming out and they're committing new crimes.
Should people be sentenced to drug court?
Well, what drug court is a diversion. Mm-hmm. It's a diversion from prison. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity for a person to turn around their lives, but if they don't, they're facing prison. So drug court's a little bit more about diversion. Justice reinvestment is, once we've got them in the prison system, how do we take that time, use it better, and then when we bring them out, how can we do it so that we are less likely to see them coming through the system again?
Moving on from drug court, you also would like to explore ways to facilitate more adoptions of children in West Virginia. How are we going to do that?
Well, you know, one of the sad facts that we don't like to look at, I think, in West Virginia is that we have a lot of children who are in the system who desperately could need permanency. Mm-hmm. They need families. They need an address. They need someplace to call home. When I was chief in 2009, we had just over 900 children that were available for adoption, but that weren't being adopted. 4 years later, 2013, that number is over 1,300, and it will soon be 1,400. That's a shocking increase. It's an increase that's being driven in large part by drugs and the impact that it has on families. There are more adjudications of abuse and neglect of parents who lose custody. Their children come into the system. And we've been very fortunate to be able now to look at other states and see what they're doing right, because this has to be a priority. These children deserve more. It's a sad statistic that when a child's in foster care at age 17, when they turn 18, what are they? They're homeless, because they never had that permanent family. Now we've got a new program called New View. It's almost like a cold case type program. We borrowed it from Georgia, where it's been very successful. We've put together a team of seasoned attorneys who work with children. And what we're going to do is find 50 cold cases, so to speak, and take a new view of them, and find permanency for those kids, and move on to the next 50. And that's going to be a start. Well, and then we're going to look at other programs this year.
And we will be anxious to follow your progress on this and drug courts. Chief Justice Brent Benjamin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting. And here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the House today. Among the bills introduced in the House today, House Bill 2889, to add language to the state code recognizing the right of judges and magistrates of West Virginia courts who are licensed to carry a concealed weapon to carry a concealed firearm in court buildings and offices of family court judges. House Bill 2893, to require cultural surveys be performed before construction by natural gas pipeline companies. The bill authorizes the director of the Historic Preservation Section of the Division of Culture and History to issue construction permits and establishes a permit fee. House Bill 2894, to update language in this section of the state code, allowing the Division of Corrections and Regional Jail Authority employees who are authorized to carry a weapon to carry concealed weapons. And House Bill 2895, to require the POW MIA flag to be displayed at county courthouses. On second reading in the House tomorrow, House Bill 2397, to authorize a county commission to temporarily fill vacancies in the offices of the clerk of the county commission, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, assessor, and county surveyor. The bill permits the temporary successors to serve a maximum of 60 days. House Bill 2414, to permit a municipality to convey property to a nonprofit for a specific public interest that benefits the municipality. House Bill 2729 to allow epinephrine auto-injectors to be maintained in school for emergency treatment administration during anaphylactic reactions. And House Bill 2747 to define the terms special, regular, and emergency meetings. The bill requires state agencies to file meeting notices electronically with the Secretary of State instead of requiring publication in the state register. And this has been the Legislature Today. Tomorrow, we'll talk with West Virginia's Secretary of State, Natalie Tennant. We welcome your comments or questions about the issues at this legislative session. You can email us at feedback@wvpubcast.org, and full episodes of the Legislature Today are available on our website. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Support for the Legislature Today has been provided by the following. The High Technology Foundation, headquartered at the I-79 Technology Park in Fairmont. Online at wvhtf.org. Connecting West Virginia families and businesses through high-speed internet services. Learn more about connecting at frontier.com.